Everyone good? Doors closed. Good morning. Oh, it's good afternoon now. All right, good afternoon. Howdy. My name is Tom Laney, and I work with Southwest Airlines. I'm in the Data Science Center under Corporate Strategy. And today our presentation, as you can see titled, Empowering Data Users to be Data Warriors. That's serious business. It's not that serious, but it is pretty powerful what happened at our company. So I want to share with you today some ways of how we successfully grew Tableau at Southwest. Hopefully you can take some of that home with you and share it with your own company and see the same kind of growth that we had. Because as we all know, and that's why we're here, the more people use Tableau, the better things get. I know it's a broad statement, but it's true. I meant to take that slide out because it's the obligatory slide that says, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you, then I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to tell you what I told you. But so ignore that. I'm not going to do that. Let's do this. This is us bragging about how cool our company is. I mean, let's just go over some of the numbers. We're the nation's largest carrier in terms of domestic passengers. We're currently in our 45th year of service. We've made Fortune magazine's world's most admired companies for 22 years in a row, placing number 7 last year. Yeah, and it's pretty cool to work there too. And I'll tell you why. So one of the big things about working at Southwest is our value system. We have 3 major values, and they're plastered all over our building, and they're muraled, they're everywhere, and we really, really live by them. So the first one is fun-loving attitude. We are required to enjoy our jobs. How many Southwest folks are here today? Can you raise your hand? Oh, awesome. Any of those ops performance people that I met last night? No? Well, they were the example of requiring to enjoy their jobs last night. They were having a really good time. The second one's servant's heart, and I hope everyone here has experienced that if you've flown with us. It's about our employees having a heart for service. As you fly with Southwest, I hope you've encountered employees in customer service or over the phone or flight attendants. It's really the heart of what makes our company what it is having that specialized service to our customers. This last value is the most important for what we're talking about today, warrior spirit. And that's really something that we came up with as a company, and let me explain it. So the warrior spirit comes from years of legal battles. We had to fight just to earn the right to fly before our very first flight took off the ground. So those early battles helped shape our warrior spirit culture to overcome constant challenges and compete in a very tough industry. So those day-to-day challenges that grow our warrior spirit, you can see that in our analysts. So my presentation today, I hope to show you some of those analysts exercising their warrior spirit in some of these examples. So this is my obligatory slide. You can take a picture of this. My email's on the bottom. So feel free to contact me afterwards if you have questions. I'm not going to go over this detail, so you can Zapruder film that all you want later on. But what I want to recognize is that picture. How many people went to the Alteryx conference in June? No Alteryx users. A few? Okay. Alteryx is great. So that's at the Grand Prix. And the Grand Prix is just like the Iron Viz they have here at Tableau. They take about 5 people, and they're all up on the stage, and they're given the same data set. And the first one to complete it in a certain amount of time wins. And that's me holding the first place trophy this year. You do not need to clap. I did not win it. I'm just holding the trophy. I'm just holding the trophy. So yeah, it just finished, and they just jumped off the stage. And you can see I'm holding a beer, for God's sake. So we're with some folks, and I said, hey, that trophy's just standing right there. get a picture, get a picture. So we ran and got a picture of it, and yeah, it looks like I won, doesn't it? There's no reason I needed to be on that stage at all with those guys. Those guys were phenomenal. All right, let's move on to some serious stuff. So I want to begin this by saying, I think our data is cooler than your data. Southwest airline industry data is, I say it's complex, but it's just layered. It's so cool to work with on a day-to-day basis. Just think about, this one will relate to you. Think about how many people flew here on Southwest to get to this conference? Okay, I thought it'd be more, but that's all right. It's pretty good. Okay, so think about your flight. And I want to walk you through and see if I can generate some of the ideas of data that get generated just from flying. So you flew here, and you landed here at Austin. This was your ultimate destination. No matter where you came from, whether it was a one-way trip, or whether you had to connect once or twice, your ultimate destination was right here. That was your customer journey. Your journey from wherever you were at, despite how many connections you made, to get to here that day. That's your journey for that day. And all the data that goes into that gets generated just from that kind of journey. So what goes on operationally during a turn? We call it a turn. What it's called is when the customers get off the plane and connect to head to their ultimate location. That's a turn. And then customers getting on the plane and the process it takes until we push off from the gate. That generates loads of data. How we're routing our crew from the aircrafts. All our crew, we have 3,500 minimum flights a day, 700 aircraft. How are we optimizing our fuel consumption? Here's another one. All these planes have to get fueled. We have 99 different airports or stations that we fly in and out of. So if you can think about all the data that gets generated from that kind of operation, my data's cooler than your data. I have tons of stuff I can do with it. So our organization relies on this enterprise-wide data to tell us how we've been doing and how we can do it better. So, but here's our enterprise-wide data. I'm sure as I explain this, you're all going to go nod and go, yes, it's just like my company too. So our enterprise data is siloed all over the place. It's disparate, it's complex, some varying degrees of messy and clean, and it's found in all these remote areas all over the company. So across these different platforms and spreadsheets and ERP systems and business object universes, cubes, all that data is spread out all over the place, but the problem is it's growing. I mean, we are having trouble as a business to quickly consume and integrate and cleanse and analyze all this data. So to connect it all, we have to rely on all these long, unwieldy SQL queries, which are really hard to update and maintain and share. And so basically what we have to do is Frankenstein our data together, which is fine. I mean, it just means we have to piece all that data together with glue, and you create one big ugly monster out of it. But it's a lovable one because it's all we have to work with. But this is just like people I've been speaking with today. All these companies are kind of going through the same type of thing. This is the stage we were at when we came to Tableau. So I want to talk about some of this data that we're playing with. So the first part here is, this top half is what you would book. And this is just an example. So you would book this flight 963, taking off from your cozy little house in station AAA. You fly to BBB, connect to flight 101, and land at CCC. That's what you bought. It's what you booked. Hopefully, you'll get to fly it. So here's what's flown, the actual. You took off at AAA on 963, fine, but for some reason you landed 63 minutes late at BBB, which means you missed your connection. And I'm hoping that a nice, friendly customer service agent quickly routed you on a whole nother flight, which was 891, but you ended up at CCC 5 hours late. This is stuff we need to know. This is stuff we have to know. We have to know what you booked and what you flew and what the difference was. Now, each of these different flights we're graded on as a company. It's called on-time performance. Every airline is based on it. It's the exact same metric that every airline uses, and we have to report it to the Department of Transportation. And this is what we're judged on, and you'll see it in commercials all the time. Our on-time performance is that. That's based on every one of these individual flights. But what you care about is landing at CCC on time. You could have landed at BBB late, but if we made it the time on 891 to get you to CCC on time, that's what you care about. That's why you booked that flight, so that you get to CCC on time, your customer journey on time. Getting that data together has never been done at our company until just recently. You have to put it together kind of like this. This is all the different domains. So the passenger data, of course, is the most important. But to get to that, we route it through flight. This is the thing you buy. This is what we sell. And that flight then is based on, think of all the different aircraft we have, all 700 different aircraft. We could link that by flight. Then there's the gate. What gate were they at? Did they get to the gate on time? Did they turn on time? You could link that by flight. And then the crew, as they get on and off these planes and get scheduled. We can link that by flight. But that's the only way I can tell of your customer experience at your gate with the crew during maintenance with the aircraft. I have to link all this data together that way in order to capture the kind of customer experience that we need to know about. So here's our company, just a brief history, and this is going to be very familiar with a lot of companies out there. Traditional business intelligence system. So with a centralized data source that's all routed in by our technology department, or IT. But IT really didn't have the bandwidth to answer questions from the business. See, we needed something more ad hoc and customized and more agile fashion, and it just doesn't scale very well as well. Because we had these major initiatives that happened in the past few years. We acquired AirTran, had to incorporate that whole airline with us. Adding to our fleet, flying international. We have some new international airports that we fly to now. All that stuff is growing. And because of the traditional way we were doing things, it just, in order to analyze it, we had to approach it in a different way. So it was clear that we needed to move away from the descriptive and into more of a predictive and prescriptive analytics. So the business needed to be provided more tools to quickly do that. And that's when we came to Tableau, about 4 years ago. And there was about 3 of us. I was one of the first users about 4 years ago. And what this allowed us to do, I mean, back then our chief operating tool for business intelligence was business objects. And if you understand the business objects, it's backed by a SQL query that you don't have any control of. Someone else builds that. Guess who builds it? Technology. They don't know the data like I know it. They provide a front end with certain variables and certain static reports that they build. I don't get to build it. But now with Tableau, as soon as we got Tableau, this was about 4 years ago, I'm able to connect with Access, connect to all the different Frankenstein pieces of data that we have out there, and build my own report and do my own analysis that quickly. So I wanted to tell you about how it spread. It's tough to describe. It was super organic. It was ground up. As we were fed at Southwest, we were very lucky to have some very savvy minds who deal with analysis all over the company. I didn't realize how much. But as soon as we started demoing this, really anyone who had that kind of head just had to see it and go, I need that right now. I need that right now. And it spread like that. Just demos. So there wasn't some top-down initiative that we implemented. We just started using it, throwing it up on the server, talking to people, demoing it. And pretty much everyone said, I need to have that now. How do I get it? And we grew. And that grew us to our current state, which, as we got into using Tableau and seeing the freedom of touching on this data, hey, I want to do a little bit more with that. I don't have we have ETL designers all over the company, but they don't know the data like I know it. I need to design like an ETL developer, but I don't want to learn ETL. So a tool like Alteryx will help you do that. So we do a lot of our data shaping in Alteryx and all the churning and merging of the data, produce a Tableau data extract at the end, which Alteryx does, and then do our designing and playing with in Tableau. So work in Alteryx, play in Tableau. That's kind of the model. Now, it's not everybody at the company that's doing this, but like I said, Alteryx 2 years ago, it's spreading. It's spreading just like Tableau did 4 years ago. And it's just word of mouth as well. So here's some stats on Tableau use at the company. So like I said, I was one of the first few users with the desktop license. Today we have, this number's probably off, but 312 users as of September, desktop users. Server users over 1,100. Here's a bubble chart of all the different departments that are using and by number of desktop users. So look at that big one upper left-hand corner. That's tech ops, that's maintenance. And they need to have their own, the time it would take to, they're doing some amazing stuff. They need to have their own presentation on what they're doing. It's fabulous. And that number being the biggest department holding Tableau licenses, this deserved because they're doing some amazing things. So hopefully one time they'll get their act together and create a presentation that's deserving of their story because it's really cool. But the most important thing I think on this graph is the upper right corner, that bar graph there. That is distinct users hitting the server each month. And it's doubled in just this calendar year for the first 9 months. So it's really growing. As soon as it's up there, that's kind of how we do now. The people with the licenses produce for people that go off to the server to see. And it's a larger number than those that have the license. And it's worked out really great. All right, so let's do some examples here. This is how we're using Tableau across the company, and hopefully you'll see some cool ways that we're using it in analysis in different departments and see kind of how it's growing as well. All right. So this slide I cribbed from the deck that was used during our very first Tableau data visualization competition. That's a good idea. I told you I'd give you some ideas on how to spread it. This is a really good one. So we held it just recently. Each of the final 5 finalists gave a 2-minute presentation to the Tableau user group audience. There's probably about 80 people in the audience that day. And to a panel of 3 judges. So the judges deliberated out of the room for a few minutes to award the grand prize, but the audience voted via text live so that we awarded an additional audience favorite prize. And by the way, these visualizations here are not part of our presentation today. I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm lucky to show you what I'm showing you. I think what I'm showing you is awesome, but it had to get vetted very strongly. There's a lot of stuff that's out there that we're doing that we can't show, but what I'm showing you is really cool. But none of this. So here's a good example. So this has to do with utility. Utility is generally a way to measure the quality of an itinerary. Okay? So the higher the utility, the more attractive it will be for customers to fly. So some of the biggest things that impact utility are the time of day it flies, the day of the week it flies, and the quality of the itinerary, like whether it's a non-stop or a one-stop. So these factors are all considered to come up with our own internal calculation of utility. This is a specialized number. So this is all fake data, because I can't show you the real number. So this is shown in combination with the customer demand for those same routes. That's the upper right-hand corner. That's the Sansky curve, yeah? So this is the combination of the utility score and the demand for that same flight. And each of those colors is a different route. So this is used by our network planning group or it will be used. It's kind of a new idea right now to help plan out those routes. All right, here's a good one. Is Jeff Royce in the house? No? All right, Jeff Royce was our guy who developed this, and you can see the date on it, or can you? Yeah, 2013. So this is within the first year that we were using this, and Jeff jumped out as one of our big-time master users. And so what we're showing here, each of these is a route on the left-hand corner, or down the left-hand side is a route. And what you'll see is the puck, each of these pucks is a flight and then a turn, a flight and a turn. And the number is the minutes. So this is what's scheduled. This is what we hope will happen. You see a 60-minute flight with a 35-minute turn to a 60-minute flight to a 45-minute turn. And the colors represent how tight that turn's going to be, things we need to know. So here's that same data set, but with what actually happened. Comparing schedule to actual, super important. So the green, on time. Yay, DOT on time. By the way, DOT on time means, we call it A14. You could arrive 14 minutes late, and you're on time. 15 minutes, you're late. But 14 minutes, you're on time. So you'll see that here. The yellow did not make it on time, and the red severely out. But then you can also see turn-wise, did we really match the turn that we scheduled to do? And there's a color coding for how long each of those turns took as well. Okay, let's see another one. This is great. So this is a certain airport. The actual versus scheduled, having to do with planes at the gate. So down the left-hand corner, down the left side is the aircraft, number of aircraft, and then across the bottom is time of day. So during the time of day, we can see how many aircraft we are scheduling will be sitting at a gate, turning, right, before they take off. And so the blue is what we scheduled, and the gray fill is what actually happened. So this looks pretty good. We scheduled and performed pretty much close to what we scheduled. You see it's a big number there in the morning before, as a lot of traffic is happening. And then in the afternoon, of course, and then the flat line is all the planes sitting at the gate. But here's what we do when we add in taxi time. So that color there, these planes are on the tarmac. That's what taxi time means. They're not at the gate and they haven't taken off yet. They're on the tarmac. Red is taxi in, which means they've just landed, but they're waiting for a gate. The orange is taxi out, which is on the tarmac, either getting in position or waiting to take off. So look at that sucker in the afternoon. That's a lot of planes sitting off, not at a gate or not flying. That's too many for us. This is the kind of thing we need to know. And what's cool about Tableau is that as soon as you see this, you go, oh, that's too many. That's a quicker recognition than it would take if I had just shown you the numbers or a spreadsheet. This is the kind of visualization that gets executives going, I need to concentrate on that. So I told you about on-time performance. It's still an important number to us. I mean, it's the most important number to us. So we like to track it. Here's something, is Jeff Hagold in the audience? All these people that I said should be here and they're not here. Because they don't want to be pointed out, that's fine. So Operational Performance Department, they put this together and they found a way with SQL Backend to get a near real-time number of on-time performance. So they have a server back there that's giving in the total company-wide on-time performance every 15 minutes. That's the red line. So you can see it by minute how we're doing. And then the blue in the background is historic. And you can see the box and whiskers that shows the variance of how we've done historically, and then with the overlay of the on-time of the actual number in red gives us a good indication how we're doing throughout the day in real time, 15 minutes. Here's a good one. It has to do with the customer journey itself that I described earlier. So the on-time performance, of course, provides the percentage of flights arriving on time. But what about those that did not arrive on time? What happened to those passengers? Most of them made it to their destination as scheduled, but just a little later than planned. But unfortunately, some passengers flew a route that day that ended up being different than what they scheduled. That's the yellow number. And of course, it's redacted because I can't show you how bad we did. It was good. It's a very small number. It's very, very small. So of those that of their ultimate destination, they made it as scheduled, that's in green. And those that actually did not make it to their ultimate destination, that's in red. That's a very, very bad number. And that's why we keep up with this. This is a daily report that gets spit out. We need to keep up with this. And of course, we have it broken down by station. We have it broken down by whether you were a Rapid Rewards member or not. These are all super important stuff that we didn't have the ability to follow until we got these self-service tools together. This was not done by IT. This was done by a business analyst. One person. All right, we're going to do a cool demo. Hopefully. Yeah. All right, one last request for who's in the audience. Brendan, are you here? These people. As soon as I tell them be here because I'm going to point you out, they don't show up. All right, so this was done as a, they were trying to solve a problem for fuel tankering. Oh, I need to show you what fuel tankering is all about. Bear with me. Okay, I have this cool slide for it. All right, so fuel tankering. The plane has to get fuel, right? So it's on its route. It's at Phoenix. We fill it up. It gets tankered, meaning it gets filled up for a certain price. Happens to be at Phoenix for $1.27. It flies on its route. It goes to Denver. Ooh, look how expensive the gas is in Denver. No, we're not going to fill up in Denver. It's too expensive. Hopefully, we filled up enough in Phoenix that we can skip Denver. And if not, okay, here's St. Louis. It's a little cheaper. Doing that type of optimization, figuring that out for all our routes, all our flights, is tankering. It's very complex. And ideally, we'd like to be really, really good at it because fuel is expensive. And I'm not going to tell you how expensive it is as a percentage of our company, but it's very, very expensive. So that was the demonstration. This team had an idea that right now we're doing all this analysis of tankering for all 99 of our stations. And they thought, what if we were to concentrate on just the most important stations and really optimize them? What kind of difference could we make with that? And what stations would that be? So here's what they came up with. So this is a whole other story. Look, we're flying Europe now. No. So he did this for all our stations in the United States, but of course it got, you can't show that. So he was really excited about having this being presented. So I told him, this was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I'm sorry, they don't like that you have the stations listed, they don't like the expense on it, they don't like all the numbers showing, it's just too much information. So I didn't hear from him until last week. And he sends this out and goes, I hope this will be okay. I'm like, yeah, it's fine now. I think this will be fine because it's all fantasy land numbers. All right, so this is every station we have in Europe. And it's coded by whether this airports have a constraint or not. Now, what we mean by constraint is that, looks like over here in this airline, I don't know where it's at, the Maldives or something like that. You can't, Malta, thank you. So it doesn't have enough room at that airport to accommodate any more fuel. So it's not very flexible in order to play with the optimization of it to whether we can, we're not flexible enough to hold enough fuel to play with it as an optimization. So there's certain airports that shouldn't be considered for the most optimal, for the tankering problem, for the tankering calculation. But there are a lot that are. And then you add in the price per gallon for each of those stations. And there's some that are cheap and some that are not. And then we add in, this is the price difference for each flight. How expensive is it to actually fly there from another place? He did all that calculation there. This is all in Tableau. And then add in an extra layer. Now, add in the amount of times it gets flown. So with all these different considerations, he came up with the most optimal set of stations that should be considered for tankering. And he proved this out in a little Pareto. And Pareto says usually 20% of your quantity is responsible for 80% of your results. And that was certainly true here. He found the 20 different stations that in savings had the most potential and actually account for 80% of the total savings that we're getting from our current tankering use. So now we have our stations. So let's look at it in relation to what we're currently saving. So on the left is what we're currently saving, and then looking at what we would do if we were to fuel it more efficiently, and then the select cities. So the ones on the left are the 99, and the ones on the right are just the 20. Same business, but it's just as easily to accommodate all the savings that we currently have by just using the 20 stations that they're proposing. This is another hairy slide I couldn't have shown you, so you see no numbers here. Just know that that was what was decided. And then the final map, oh, here we go. Work, please. It's gonna work. I've already seen this. Ah. And look how nice and spread out they are. These are perfect to do our tankering analysis only on these stations and not on all 99. So of course this would save on fuel holding costs. We wouldn't have to rely on every station to hold fuel as much if we did only our analysis and our optimization on just these 20. That was the proposal. That was the proposal, and he did this all in Tableau for this. I got one more. Oh, I know the person who did that is sitting here. And I won't. I'll just let him kind of sit and just think, yeah, they're all looking at my visualization, and they don't know it's me. So this was done for all the applications of every airline when they proposed to fly to Cuba. Every airline went to the DOT and said, I want to fly these flights. So upper left-hand corner here, we have every airline. And so there's JetBlue. Let's look at what they wanted to do. Okay? So here's all the routes that they're flying that only go to Havana. Wow, they were going to, see, look at all these flights from Boston. JetBlue was going to JFK to Havana. This is what they asked the government to allow them to fly. And then over here, you can see all the different, see, I didn't know Cuba had these other airports other than Havana. Well, that's why this person did this analysis. It's just really see this. So over here, you have the other routes besides Havana, and they're all going to fly. Let's see, let's look at these. There's Havana, and then we have this Santa Clara. I'm not going to try and pronounce that or that. So this is a pretty cool little visualization. Now here's us. This is us. And right now I'm going to tell you that of these that we applied for, we got all these routes except for one. We got all of them for one. So these are flying from Havana, or to Havana from Tampa Bay, and this is Orlando, and that is Fort Lauderdale. So we got all these routes except for this one. But we start flying these flights the November 13th. We fly this one, Laredo. Yes. And in December, we fly the Havana flights. Now, we didn't get the total number that we wanted, but we got about half the amount that we wanted to fly. So here's just another cool way that someone used Tableau to just for industry analysis. Let's switch back. Oh, so everyone has to look at this. But I don't have to describe it. This is legal said I had to have this up there. This is just our financials from 2015. I don't know why. She didn't tell me why. She just said legally, if I was going to show the other stuff, this had to be there. But because it's such an exciting slide, I want to take it as the time that I want to thank you for having me here. Showed you the best for last. So now go forth. I hope you got some ideas on how you can go forth and multiply Tableau use at your company and turn some of your data users into data warriors as well. So I think we're ready for some questions. All right, good. Thank you. I appreciate your time.